What's up guys, GRC here, and today I want to do a quick review of the Hexgears Nova Mechanical Keyboard. This bad Larry, this bad Bahama Jamma Whamma right here. As you can see, this is the tankless variant in black with Kailh Box White Switches. You can also get it in a full size with a gray or blue body. Unfortunately, all the keycaps are still black. It would have been cool to have the keycaps match the body, but I get why they did it. It cuts down on costs. And you can also get it with Kailh Box Brown or Hakko Clear switches. Personally, I went with the Kailh Box White switches because I love clicky and tactile switches. This Cooler Master Quickfire Rapid TKL was my previous driver for 8 years. This guy lasted me 8 years. I used it for typing, gaming. I absolutely loved it. And before I tried Kailh Box White switches, I absolutely loved Cherry MX Blue switches. I had tried the Cherry MX Brown, Blue, Red. I haven't tried any of the new Speed or Silver switches or anything like that, but I was very content with Cherry MX Blues. After having used the Kailh Box White switches for 2 or 3 weeks now, it's painful to go back to the Blues because they feel so cheap and just sloppy. So if you like a certain version of the Cherry MX, if you like the Cherry MX Brown, I urge you to try the Kailh Box Brown switches. Ooh, I love the Kailh Box Whites, and seriously, it pains me to depress one of the Cherry MX Blue switches now. It's just, yeah. Unfortunately, that's kind of where my praise for this keyboard ends. They seem to struggle to get even some of the basics right. The keyboard feet only have one level, and in my opinion, it's way too low. And it sucks because it seems to throw off the ergonomics of my typing a bit. And for $90, you would at least think they would get that right. While gaming, thankfully, it didn't really matter. The lack of an incline didn't seem to affect me, but I could definitely feel it while typing, and it took some getting used to. Another issue I had with this keyboard is that when I actually bought it, the keycaps were originally advertised as PBT shine through. Long story short, I contact the seller, the Kono store, and the keycaps are indeed ABS plastic. And it's a big deal because PBT is generally considered to be better, it's more durable, it lasts longer, and you don't get that sort of shiny appearance as quickly as you do with ABS keycaps. And I'm also really not certain who to place the blame on, because the Kono store and Hexgears, they're two separate companies. I believe the Kono store is sort of Hexgears' main distribution channel. You know, that's where most of Hexgears' products are sold. I'm leaning towards placing most of the blame on Hexgears because the PBT keycaps were advertised throughout all channels. On the Kono store, their direct website, on Amazon they were advertised as PBT, and even on Hexgears' own website they were advertised as PBT. So I think the seller isn't really at fault here. I think they were given false information. But it just kind of puts a bit of a sour taste on the experience, because it's never good to start off with false advertising. To the Kono store's credit, and maybe to Hexgears, they did change right after I contacted them. They did fix the error across all channels, so at least that's good to see. The overall build quality is just okay. It's not great, it's not terrible. Definitely feels sort of middle of the road. Online, it is advertised as having a full metal body, but in the manual, it just says metal cover. And I'm leaning towards the manual being right, because it was also right about the keycaps. If we take a look, you can see there's 3 parts that make up the body. There's the bottom, larger cover that makes up like 2/3. There's RGB strip in the middle, and then there's this top part. And I think just the top part is metal. And then I think the bottom is plastic. You can just hear the different sounds just tapping on them produces. Maybe Hexgears or someone in the comments can let me know if I'm wrong about that. There's also pretty minimal flex on the board itself. It does feel fairly well built, but there is a a good amount of creaking. Just listen to this. And that's not even me really straining much to do that. That's with, I'd say, a medium amount of force. For 90 bucks, it's not bad. Next, I just want to briefly touch on the RGB implementation here. Like many of the other things on this keyboard, it's just okay. As you can see, most of the light you're seeing there is coming through in between the keycaps and not through the actual keycap itself. If we compare that to the Ducky 1.2 TKL, it looks much better on this board. So, it's mediocre, and I don't like the layout actually of how you control it. It's, I think, more confusing than it needs to be, but it does give you a lot of options for customization, which is nice. A couple other things I don't really care for about on this board. Their choice for a non-standard bottom row, I don't know why they did that, and it's going to make it a little bit more difficult if you do want to replace the keycaps. I also don't care much for their layout and choice for the multimedia keys. F1 and F2 are brightness control, as if you're on a laptop. That doesn't really work on a desktop. Seems like an odd inclusion. The volume up, down, and mute are on F3 to F5. I would have liked those to been on F9 to F12, just so you can make them easier. You can do that shortcut a lot easier with one hand instead of having to use two. And there is no software for this board either, so it's not like you can reprogram them like you can on the Ducky 1.2 TKL. Anyway, guys, that's almost gonna wrap it up. I do have a sound test for you right now. In most regards, the Hexgears Nova is a pretty average keyboard. Its real saving grace, in my opinion, is its offering of Kailh Box Switches. The only thing I would caution potential buyers about is its non-standard bottom row and its short keyboard feet. Personally, I think I can forgive most of its issues, at least until Kailh Box Switches are offered in more affordable tanky-less keyboards. Thankfully, it already seems like Hexgears is making improvements and listening to community feedback, as they are scheduled to release another keyboard called the Gemini. This will feature a standard bottom row, double shot PBT keycaps, a removable cable, and even hot swappable switches. But we probably won't see that for at least a few months. Anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. I'm gonna go take some drugs because my head hurts. See ya.